Hello and welcome once again to another episode of From the Heart. This show, as always, is brought to you by your American Heart Association and by the West Virginia Library Commission. I'm your host, Kevin Pauley, Communications Director for the Heart Association. Did you know that stroke is the #3 killer in the United States? It's true. And what you may not know about stroke is its impact on African Americans. Consider this. African Americans are twice as likely to suffer first ever strokes than whites and have higher death rates from strokes than whites. Now, while this is a startling fact, the American Heart Association and American Stroke Association are working to help combat this problem through an empowering, encouraging, and inspiring campaign known as the Power to End Stroke. Here with us today to talk about this exciting campaign is our good friend Andrew Burrows, lifestyle fitness coach with West Virginia Home Fitness, and also an ambassador for the Power to End Stroke campaign. Andrew, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. Good to be back.
Well, it's glad to have you back. You know, it's been a while. I think last time we were on here, we were talking about the holidays and trying to keep as fit as possible, I guess, during those times. And here we are today talking about the Power to End Stroke campaign. Now, stroke is something obviously that can affect anyone, regardless of age, sex, race. But what makes this Power to End Stroke campaign so important?
Well, I think right on the surface, when you know what you were mentioning there, the fact that it has such an impact on the African American community, and it's not really something that's it's not really front page stuff. It's just it's really kind of become something from what I've seen where it's just kind of something we accept. You know, someone has a stroke, and we don't really look at it as if it's something that we can prevent. You know, so by having a chance to try to bring more awareness to it and some of the more preventive measures that we can take, it's kind of an opportunity that you really you don't really pass up. It's just something that's just laying there and you just go with it. Yeah,
I think what you said, you really struck the right chord there, I think, when you talked about awareness. I mean, that really is the key. I mean, we can say the cliche that knowledge is power, but in this case it truly is because, I mean, statistics show most people don't recognize that if their family, history, even way, way, way back, if it's been there in your family history, you're more prone to suffer from a heart attack or stroke than someone else who's not. And it is that awareness that really is the key. I mean, since you've been an ambassador, is that some of the things maybe that were kind of eye-opening for you, just some of those statistics we talked about?
Right. I mean, the statistics, I mean, it's a really kind of a brutal type of environment when you look at how many people are affected by this.
Right.
I mean, it's not something that's just sitting there, and you hear about from time to time stuff. I mean, these are really large numbers of people that are, if not seeing actual incidents of stroke, are at high risk.
Right.
I've even started personally looking at our family history, and me myself personally, I don't really feel like I have to fall into that category.
Right.
I mean, I exercise on a regular basis.
Sure.
I watch what I eat. And looking at a family history, and even my own personal history combined with that, I'm finding there's a lot more risk involved there than I would have initially thought. And I've actually started communicating with my family to see that we can start making steps as my extended family, so we can start making steps, to improve that.
And that's really what it's all about. I mean, that's really what this campaign is wanting you to take stock of, is to know your family history and to look at these things, to address it. Now, what are some of the major factors that cause stroke to be such an even deadlier killer for African Americans? Why is it that there is this prevalence now?
Well, it has a lot to do. I mean, the risk factors are going to be across the board.
Sure.
But if you look at the cultural aspect of what goes on for blacks, as far as lifestyle, eating habits, work environment, things like that. If you start putting all these things together and you add in, a higher level of smoking, a higher level of obesity. I remember a couple of years ago, I saw a statistic that stated that black women in the United States were looking at about 50% for obesity.
Wow.
Now that number, it's over 75%. They're estimating that over 75% of black women in the United States are obese. Over 50% of black men in the United States are obese. And when you see numbers like that, I mean, you just can't ignore that. I mean, you're talking about half of the men, 3/4 of the women right there have that risk factor right there in their face. That's just one statistic.
Sure. And I think while it is a sad statistic, perhaps what's the more encouraging side of that, though, is that obesity is something that can be personally prevented.
Exactly.
And you can't change things like your genetic makeup. You can't change your family history, but smoking, being overweight, those are things that you can control.
Exactly.
And that, I think, is what we're trying to get across with this campaign, is that, it is the Power to End Stroke, and in essence, it's that empowerment, that, power being the key word there, that you do have the ability to stop this thing. You don't have to be a statistic. You don't have to just lay down and take it. You can fight this back. You know, is that part of what made you want to get involved? I mean, what is it that sparked that into you
Well,
to want to be an
absolutely.
ambassador?
More than anything else is as I look at the Power to End Stroke program, and any of the programs that the Heart Association or the American Stroke Association rolls out there are always tools and resources for someone to take charge
Right.
of their own individual situation and say, okay, these things I can't control. But am I a smoker? Okay, if I do work on, you know, quitting smoking, if I do work on my weight, if I do work on, you know, all these other things, my eating habits and exercise patterns and all, then I can control these things, and it gives you the resources to actually go out and do it.
Right.
You know, so when I looked at it and said, okay, well, is this just something that's is this more lip service, you know? Is this just something that's being thrown out there and say, you know, okay, you're on your own, here it is? No, they actually give you the resources and the tools that you can use to start making the improvements, and that's why I wanted to get involved.
Well, that's one of the things I know we actually can show you the website here, which is www.powertoendstroke.org. And on that website, I mean, there are so many tools at your disposal. There you can even see, just from the top, there's so many celebrities now that are joining the cause. And it's great to be able to see that kind of national, you know, front page news kind of awareness coming about, you know, when you've actually got, you know, people who are known in sporting industry and in the music industry and television, that they're all coming together to make this, you know, and right there's the tools page, the family tree. That's so important. We were talking about that before we even did the taping today. It was that family tree and how great that little thing is. And we're going to show you right here. This is an important tool because, like you said, it's important to take stock of your family history. It's kind of a fun thing when you can actually look. It reminds you of your family, and it reminds you to remember all those wonderful people that make your family so special and so unique. But it is important to know what has been going on. What is the family genetic history? Is stroke prevalent? If it is, then I need to start taking stock of what's going on right now. You know, I know you said yourself you're a really big fan of this tool,
Right.
just for that simple reason.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I really like about it, again, is the fact that it's intuitive and it's right there. You don't even have to have a printer to do this. You can actually complete this online. And
Right.
I know for a family like ours, we're spread out. I have, you know, a couple siblings in Georgia, a couple siblings in Indiana. I'm here in West Virginia.
Sure.
You know, so we can actually communicate the information online here, and it can be completed online,
Right.
where I don't have to have access. You could do it on a library computer.
Right.
You know, and put this information down and then print yourself out a copy.
You
and
can
everything.
eliminate having to mail it and having to wait for someone to fill it out. Maybe they fill it
Absolutely.
out when they get it, maybe they don't.
Absolutely.
If it's online, it's all right there. So.
Right, right.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a look right now at the special feature about the campaign. And this will really be a good eye-opening experience for if you've never seen the campaign before. It gives you a great idea about what the campaign is about and reminds us and encourages us to remember that you are the power to end stroke.